in making incursions across our border sometimes with the help of the Mexican military. We understand that's a precarious situation. So what will your position be, and how will you help secure specifically our southern border?
I took the position when I was in the Congress that we needed to secure the border, period. I voted against amnesty. I voted against federal benefits for illegals. And my policy has always been the most important thing we can do for this country from a national security point of view. I don't know if you just saw that that Iran now has a training base in Cuba. And so this is not just a drug cartel, illegal immigrant problem. This is a national security problem. Obviously, that's a national security issue, the drug cartels. But it's also a point of entry for folks who want to do great harm to us. So the answer is, we've had 2 presidents for political reasons who chose not to secure the border. I will promise you that we will deploy the resources and personnel necessary to do that.
Senator, I'm not trying to test your memory. Back in 1992, you remember the U.S. House of Representatives. How did you vote for the 27th Amendment? And if you win the Republican nomination, I'm going to give you a tip. If you win the Republican nomination, I'll give you a tip who to pick for VP that will guarantee you to win the presidency.
The 27th, is that the Madison Amendment?
Yes.
Yeah, I voted for it.
Good.
Yeah.
Second question.
Madison Amendment said that members of Congress cannot take a pay increase during their term of office.
Oh, yeah. Also, if you want to, like, the left doesn't want you to win, obviously. And I guarantee that if you pick Senator Marco Rubio from Florida,
Yeah.
VP.
Yeah.
That's
right. Jay? Oh, all right, we'll do Jay and then Barbara.
Senator, one of the tactics that I see so often is the tool of ridicule of the conservative point of view. And a lot of people think that it's really cool to buy into it because then they feel like they're part of a club. And they want to hit us with a club like that club. How do we fight that, in your estimation?
If you have a leader who is willing to go out and talk to the American public,
Like you're doing.
and level with them and communicate with them, and you know, Ronald Reagan, when he left office, his farewell address, the end of that farewell address, talked about his concern about the future of our country because of our people not knowing who they were, not knowing our history. And I think that's a very important thing. That's why I started the speech out the way I did. It's a very important thing. If you want to bring people together, well, we have to have something to, a common point, a touch point. I mean, America is not a country that is, when you think of America, you don't think of an ethnicity. Very few people consider themselves ethnically American. America is an ideal. It's a set of values, shared values. And so I think the important thing for us to remember is that we need a president who can remind us what those values are, what made us great, and what we have to do to solve the problems of today is consistent with the values that made us successful. We also have to challenge people to, I get upset when I hear a lot of folks talk about, you know, well, we need shared sacrifice, or we need, you know, we need to cut this and cut that, and we need to be tough on this. Americans are not an eat your spinach kind of folk. We just don't, we respond well to that. But I think Americans will respond to the term I used earlier, duty. They understand what their duty is. And of course, sacrifice is part of your duty, but it's not the only thing. Part of your duty is to create a growing, vibrant economy. Part of your duty is to provide for yourself and your family. I mean, I don't think anybody, if you ask any man or woman in uniform, why did you go to fight for our country? They say, because I wanted to sacrifice. No, I wanted to do my duty. And if that includes sacrifice, fine. But we have to call ourselves to something higher. And I think a lot of Republicans are sort of bean counter types. And they just focus on the negative instead of focusing on the bigger picture of what we're all about.
Let's get positive. So, thank you very much for coming. It was wonderful. If Sarah Palin
still not running by the end, are you the most likely person in terms of values and ideas for solving our government's problems for her to endorse?
Oh, I don't know. Look, I make the comment that, you know, I've been a conservative when conservatism wasn't cool. I stood up and, you know, I represented a blue state. I mean, the amazing thing about Governor Perry, he represented a conservative red state. I mean, I can in some respects give Mitt Romney a pass. He was governor of Massachusetts. It's hard to be a conservative. As you know, it's hard to be a conservative. And so when people say, well, you know, they'll find a little splinter in my eye and say, oh, you voted for this. I represented Pennsylvania for 12 years, you know? But if you want to look at, sometimes I voted for things that I didn't necessarily like because they were in bills where the things I liked and things I didn't like. But I think if you go back, you won't find anything that I advocated for things that weren't conservative. I may have voted for things that may not have been conservative, but I advocated. So if you want to look at someone who's had a consistent conservative record for 16 years, representing a 60% Democratic district, a 71% Democratic district in the Congress, a state that had 1 million more registered Democrats than Republicans, and still voted as one of the more conservative members of the Congress, if that's what attracts someone like Sarah Palin, someone who was a reformer, someone who cleaned up Congress, someone who was able to pass along with John Kyle, we authored term limits on committee chairmen and leaders in the United States Senate on the Republican side. I did that. Someone who fought the chairman of the Appropriations Committee when he changed his vote at the last minute to defeat the balanced budget amendment in 1995. And as soon as he did that, Mark Hadfield, he'd been in for 30 years. I was in 2 months. And I went to the floor and called for him to resign as chairman of the Appropriations Committee. Okay? Look, I'll take anybody want to go on your Facebook page and endorse me, endorse me. I'll take every endorsement, but I don't go out and, you know, ask, you know, folks. I mean, she's thinking about running. I'm not going to ask her to endorse me. I mean, I'm going to respect the fact she's got to make a decision before I do something like that.
Yeah, but you guys are on the same page. That's what counts.
Rick, I want to thank you also for coming out here and showing California the lost country of the United States. Some respect as a conservative. I also want to thank you for your words of support for my campaign, also running the 30th district here. 2 things, actually. Give us some words of encouragement that you will support In God We Trust in this great nation, and that Sharia law will not override any of our courts of law here in the United States.
Yeah.
I would like you to touch upon the policies that you would like to see implemented in regards to our China relationship, specifically in regards to GM's new $2 billion deal building airlines over there. GE, excuse me. Thank you.
Okay, well, that's a lot of questions. Let me see what I can,
Got 3 in
see what I
one.
can do. The first question was on In God We Trust. Look, when I was in the United States Senate, I started a working group on religious liberty. In fact, was probably the most active senator in my 12 years on religious liberty around the world.